Hey, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody is doing great and fantastic. Let me know in the comments. You can see me and hear me okay. And make sure you like, comment, and share, folks. Today's going to be an important session. I'm sharing 4 tips with you in relation to 4 tips for acing your video interviews. 4 things you need to keep in mind. These are things I've seen, people at various levels of their career fail to do or not do as well as they can. Some of these might seem like very simple and basic tips, but I guarantee you, folks, I've seen people at all levels of their
Today's
career.
going to be an important session. I'm
Whoops.
talking.
At all levels of their career, mess up on these things or not do these things as best as they could. So let me know in the comments who you are, where you're tuning in from. Make sure you comment. Don't be shy. This is a great networking opportunity for those of you who are actively on the market for work, or maybe even if you're not. So let me know in the comments who you are and where you're tuning in from, so I know where everyone is located. We got Jakir from India. Thanks for tuning in, Jakir. Appreciate you watching and tuning in today. Let me know in the comments, folks. Looks like we got a shy crowd today. Not everyone is putting in the comments who they are and where they're tuning in from, but no worries. I'll just give it a few more minutes and I'll start speaking about today's topic. And let me actually just go live on Instagram as well while we're waiting for people to start tuning in. There's an echo in the voice. I'm not sure why that's happening. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure why there's an echo. There should not be an echo. So I don't know. Maybe something at your end, Jakir. But we got Ahmed in the house. Ahmed, thanks for tuning in. And he's from Pakistan. Wow, all the way from Pakistan. Thanks for tuning in. We got Jai Rahman from the UK. We got Krishna from Bangalore. We got Pallavi from India. Thanks for tuning in, Pallavi. We got Abhishek from Canada. Awesome. Where are all my Toronto people? I want to see my Toronto people. Pino from Toronto. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in, Pino. Appreciate you tuning in. Pino says, looking forward to hear what you have to say. Awesome. Fantastic. Appreciate that, Pino. And folks, look, give a little introduction about yourself in the comments, right? Again, this is a great networking opportunity for all of you who are tuning in. More than happy for all of you to utilize my platform. Maybe you can connect with each other, expand your networks, and build up that momentum on your presence here on LinkedIn. So that being said, let me just go live on Instagram as well. So I'll just quickly. All right, shout out to everyone there on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. The topic I'm speaking about today is 4 tips to help you ace and be well prepared for your video interviews. So we got some more comments here. Ahmed says, thanks, you too. We got Nancy from Halifax, all the way from Halifax. Awesome. East Coast is in the house. Thanks for tuning in, Nancy. We got Himani from Bangalore. Awesome, Himani. Thanks for tuning in. We got Disha from Montreal. Awesome. Bonjour, Disha. Thanks for tuning in. We got Hiral from India. We got Roya. Excited to hear what you're going to say. Thanks, Roya. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, folks. So let's get this party started, right? And shout out to Manish on Instagram for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in, Manish. We got a few more people. Mola from Toronto. Hey, Mola, thanks for tuning in. Pino says, I'm a recruiter. I specialize in the recruitment of HR professionals in Toronto. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn. Awesome. So, folks, you need to be doing what Pino is doing. You need to be introducing yourself. So, any HR professionals in Toronto, you're on the market. You're looking for opportunities. Feel free to connect with Pino. Right, that might be a great contact for the HR professionals here in Toronto. So, feel free to introduce yourself in the comments, folks. So today's topic, and what I'm speaking about today, is 4 tips to help best prepare and put yourself in a position where you can win your video interviews, right? So I got 4 tips. Now, today's definitely a note-taking session for those of you who are active job seekers. You want to make sure you're taking notes. Now, before I get started, just a few announcements here. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. For those of you in the tech space, or those of you who are project managers, I will be speaking this Saturday, November 7th, at the PMI Virtual Professional Development Day. Now, there's going to be several awesome speakers there. One of the keynote speakers is Swish Goswami. Some of you might have heard of Swish. Well known on LinkedIn. He's only like 22, 23 years old. Such a great presence, and he's going to be one of the keynote speakers. I'm going to be one of the other speakers in one of the sessions. I'm going to be speaking about how to handle your job search from end to end during the current situation, the current job market conditions. So again, that event is this Saturday, November 7th. It's like an all-day event. My speaking session, I believe, is in the afternoon. But if you want more information, I put the link here on the screen. You can see right down there. I've got the link, so feel free to check that out, and you can check out the details for ticketing and all that stuff, and see who the other speakers are. It's going to be a fantastic event. Really looking forward to it. I'm going to be having a live Q&A as well after my session to answer everyone's questions on their job search. So if you haven't signed up already, make sure you check it out. It's going to be a fantastic event, and I hope to see all of you there. Again, great speakers there. Make sure you check it out. So it's going to be this Saturday, November 7th. And it's the PMI Ontario chapter's virtual professional development day. So make sure you check that out. Another heads up, hey, if you're a job seeker, make sure you subscribe to my weekly job search strategies newsletter. I release a new edition every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. The link is, I don't think you can click on this link, but it's down there. It's www.deankulavera.com/newsletter. So make sure you sign up for that. And let's get into today's session, folks. So what I'm speaking about today is, let's see here. So we got Edward here says, hey, the topic sounds interesting. I wish it was more to the point. Takes a lot of time to get started, and same thing is repeated over and over. Not sure what you're talking about there, Edward. I'm not sure if you're saying that I'm not getting to the point, or if you're saying that video interviews don't get to the point right away. So feel free to clarify. All right. Sachin says, hi, Sachin. I'm in from Transcurve Consulting, specializing in OD, HR, and business consulting. Please feel free to get in touch for any discussion related to people or org issues. All right, sounds good, Sachin. Thanks for tuning in. All right, folks. So today's session, I'm talking about 4 tips to help you win your or ace your video interviews. Right now, tip number 1 is probably the most important one, and probably one of the most basic ones, but probably one of the most overlooked aspects to video interviews that I've seen so many people, so many job seekers kind of fail to do, and in terms of fail to do, as well as not do this quite effectively. And this is based on my experience previously as a former recruiter, right, working in IT recruitment for 8+ years. I've seen a lot of people actually flunk the interview just at this very simple step. And so tip number 1 is making sure that you are making sure that your setup, your technical setup, is actually working and functioning. This is one of those things that, again, it seems like such a basic thing, but I, as a recruiter, have seen so many job seekers, so many candidates that have been presented for positions fail to do and not do this effectively enough. So, folks, tip number 1 is, look, you got to make sure that your technical setup is functioning and everything is all set at your end from a technical standpoint. Mistake a lot of job seekers do is they set things up and they actually test out their camera, their mic, their video, their audio, and all that stuff a few minutes before the interview or during the video interview itself. So you got to make sure at your end, folks, that you are testing out your equipment and all those technical aspects at your end, and make sure that all of that stuff is all set up and working and functioning well before the interview, because you don't want to have to deal with these things during the interview or right before the interview and have it mess up your chances of having a proper conversation with the hiring team or the hiring manager. Right? So you need to make sure that you're testing all these things. So again, is your mic functioning? Is your camera functioning? Is the sound working? Is it able to pick up the sound? Like at your end, is your mic picking up the sound? And is your camera, can your system, can your computer, can your laptop even handle your camera? Look, there are some cameras out there. Some of you are buying HD cameras that your laptop or your computer can't even handle because the resolution is set to high. So you got to check out your settings as well. I've seen many people unable to have a normal, proper conversation because the video is lagging. The software can't handle, the system can't handle the camera or the mic or whatever the hardware is. So ensure this compatibility, folks, and you got to test it out. So well before the interview, set up a conversation with someone that you can test that out with as well, right? Maybe a friend, maybe a family member, maybe a colleague. Say, hey, look, I got an interview coming up, a video interview. Can you set aside a few minutes just so I can test this out and make sure that this is working on this platform? Make sure that stuff is right. Now, in regards to the software, I wanted to speak real quick about the software, and this is especially in relation to Zoom or what's the other one, WebEx, or any other video conferencing platforms you might be using. A lot of you might be making, feeling like, okay, you're going to use the browser-based or the web-based version. Now, I have seen issues with candidates who have used the browser or web-based version, whereby there's a lag in the communication or the lag in the video, or simply things disconnected. Now, I actually experienced this recently with one of my coaching clients, where we kept getting disconnected on the Zoom call, right? And we couldn't figure out what was happening until ultimately, doing some troubleshooting, I was able to figure out that they were using the browser-based version of Zoom to have our coaching sessions, right? So I had him download the client, like the Zoom client, and everything was fine after that. So you got to make sure. So I would advise you to not use the browser-based version. See if you can download the actual client onto your system in order to have that, use that platform, whether it's Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or any other, platform that might be utilized for these video interviews that you're being scheduled for. So that would be my advice to that. Now, the second part of that is you got to make sure that the software is able to run on your system, right? Because if your system is fairly old, it can't handle the client that you downloaded. That might be an issue as well. So look, clearly, folks, you got to figure these things out well before the interview, right? You got to figure out, can I use the browser-based version? If I download the client, can my system handle it? Is my camera going to be able to handle? Like, is my system going to be able to handle the camera? Is my mic working properly? All these technical aspects, folks, you need to figure these things out well before the interview. It is not the interviewer's job to figure these things out or help you out or troubleshoot you with this stuff. Or don't expect them to be lenient about the fact that you're not well prepared at your end, because guess what? Not looking into these things well before the interview will show from their perspective, from their standpoint, they will consider it as if a lack of interest in your part, because you haven't put in the effort to check well before the conversation as to whether things are compatible on your side and your end of things. So make sure you are, looking into this technical setup stuff, right? Now, another tip I wanted to share in regards to the technical aspects is, as much as possible, I usually advise people avoid using your smartphone unless you know it's a smartphone that has a great data connection, or that you're connected to a Wi-Fi that can actually handle the bandwidth required for a video conference or a video discussion, right? Especially because, keep in mind, it's two-way, right? Like, all of you watching this, it's kind of a one-way, right? You're just streaming my video. But when it's two-way, there's more bandwidth required for that. So you got to make sure your smartphone is able to handle that, and make sure you have a strong internet connection. Because look, if there's going to be video lags and stuff like that, that's going to affect the communication. No matter how good you're selling yourself and pitching yourself and talking about your experience and all that stuff, when there's a video lag and there's those interruptions involved in the communication, that's going to affect your ability to sell yourself, and it's just going to ruin the conversation, right? So you got to make sure there's a smooth connection. If you're using your smartphone, just in case, I would suggest you make sure it's a full battery or it's plugged in, and make sure, again, internet connection is extremely, extremely important. So make sure that that stuff is all figured out. Now, all that being said, have a backup plan, folks. You got to have a backup plan, because just in case, you can check things like a few days in advance, but on the interview itself, Murphy's Law, right? If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong, and exactly when you don't want things to go wrong. So have a backup plan. Like, what is your backup plan? Do you have an additional laptop you can use? Is there an additional desktop or a PC or whatever it is that you use as a backup, right? As a backup for you to utilize in case whatever you are planning to use does not really is not functioning the way that you expected. So always have a backup plan. That's very important. Pino, I see you made a great comment here. You were talking about lighting as well. So Pino says, excellent first tip. Agree 100%. Thanks, Pino. Appreciate that. Make sure the mic's working. Absolutely, Pino. Agree with you. And yeah, Pino, you mentioned something really important, lighting. I can't tell you over the years how many times I've had a video call with candidates, folks, where I literally could not see the candidate. A lot of you are not considering the importance of lighting, good lighting. So see, I got this light in front of me, right? So all of you can see my face, at least to a certain degree, clearly. So you got to make sure that you're in a well-lighted area. Now, well-lighted does not mean you got your back to the window, right? Or you got the light source behind you. Because look, check this out. If I turn off this light, the lighting is not as good, right? Now, I do have some light coming here on the side, but it's not perfect. It's not ideal. So if you have some good lighting, they can actually see your face, and you can simulate that connection as in a one-on-one conversation in person. Because look, through video, you're trying to simulate as much as possible that personal connection you have in a one-on-one communication. So at your end, make sure that you're facing the light. Right now, I'm not saying have like high beams right at your face where you're squinting and you can't really see anything. I'm not saying that, but you should have a good light source in front of you. Right? It's not just about what's behind you, the light source behind you. It's about, can they see you? Is the light source in front of you as well, so they can actually see you and connect with you? They can actually see your face and actually build that connection with you, right? So definitely you want to do that. Now, the other tip I have is, I'm kind of violating this myself right now. You got to be looking at the camera, right? Avoid the temptation to look at the screen, because the screen is obviously where all of us, consciously or subconsciously, we look at the screen, because that's where we see the individual, the person that we're speaking to, the interviewer. Right now, you want to look at the camera because you want to, again, simulate that eye contact you would have in a one-on-one conversation in person. So resist the temptation, folks, to only look at the screen. Now, there will be times you'll probably glance at the screen when they're speaking, because you want to look at them when they're speaking. But when you are speaking, when you are providing your responses, as much as possible, avoid looking at the screen itself. Look right into your camera, directly into your camera when you're giving your responses, because that builds that one-on-one, that at least it simulates that one-on-one, that appearance of a one-on-one on-site interview that you would have had, if not for these circumstances that we're in. Because look, even in one-on-one communication, everyone knows eye contact is extremely important, right? Especially at least here in North America. Now, I know there's maybe other parts in the world where maybe making eye contact is not a good thing, or maybe there's some cultural issues with that. But I'm talking here in North America, right here in Canada, the US. Most of you following me are based out of Canada or the US. You got to make the eye contact. You got to simulate that in the video interview, because you're not there in person. So when you're responding, when you're speaking, look into the camera. Avoid looking only at the screen. Again, that's gonna help you with simulating that one-on-one conversation, right? So all of these technical aspects, folks, you got to keep these in mind. And in addition to the technical aspects, good lighting and making eye contact with the camera. All right. So now going on to tip number 2, research, folks. This is another aspect. I have seen many candidates flunk this when I was previously a recruiter, because everyone's so focused on preparing themselves, right? Okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this. Yeah, I got to talk about this technology. I got to talk about these projects, which is great. I'm not saying that's not important, but a lot of people lose sight of the organization itself. Have you researched the organization? And not just the organization, have you researched the individuals that will be sitting across from you, at least virtually on the video interview, right? So first thing is research the organization, right? I mean, a typical question you're going to get asked, especially for full-time permanent positions, you will get asked, folks, hey, what do you know about our organization? What interests you about our company? What interests you in working for this department, for this division, for this team? What excites you about our solutions, our services, our products, and all that stuff? You're more likely to get asked these questions, folks, if it's a full-time permanent role. Contract, maybe not so much, but I have had cases where hiring managers who are hiring for contract positions, they do want to assess the level of interest the candidate has in the company itself. So you need to do at least some high-level research, at least some abstract level research on the company or the organization. Now, my advice to candidates when I was a recruiter, and even right now as I'm doing career coaching as well, you don't need to spend hours and hours researching the company or the organization. I'm not saying dive deep into it. Don't go at it like Matrix style, where you're totally, going way in and researching each and every aspect of the company. Hey, if you can do that, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. But what you need to do here is have at least a high level knowledge of the organization, the company, the organization, the mandate, their most popular and major solutions, products, and services, right? That is extremely important, extremely key, especially for those of you who are working in tech, you're IT professionals, and you're going to be working on a specific type of project or specific type of solution. Zero excuses, folks, as to why you would not research that solution you're going to be working on, if you have knowledge of it, of course. But you should definitely research their major products, services, solutions, their award-winning product solutions and services. And if at all possible, see if you can research their technical environment as well, if at all possible. Now this is pretty straightforward to do. You can do this by researching their website. You can do this by researching on LinkedIn in terms of the employees that they have already working there. If you look at the employee profiles, especially for people in tech, you can actually take a look at, hey, what technical skills do these people have? what technical abilities do these people have, what technologies and tools and all this stuff have these existing employees mentioned on their profiles, which should give a clue to what's in their technical environment, right? So this is another way for you to kind of research that and figure those things out. So again, the research aspect, very important. Again, not saying you don't have to spend hours and hours stressing out over this, but you should have at least a high level understanding of the organization, right? What they do, what their mandate is, their top product, services, and solutions, why they're popular, any awards they might have won, maybe their philanthropic efforts as well, right? Community stuff that they do. Have a general understanding about the organization, folks. Very important. Now the second part of research is researching the people that will be interviewing you, right? A lot of people don't do this. You need to research the actual individual or individuals. If it's a panel interview, might be multiple people that you're going to be meeting with. Now, not everyone's going to be listed on LinkedIn. Not everyone has a thorough LinkedIn profile filled out, but you want to research these individuals online on LinkedIn. Get an idea of their background, visit their profile, actually take the time to visit their profile, read over their profile, what's their background, what's their skill set, what is their area of expertise, how is their career progressed, what is their current position, obviously. This is going to give you an idea of their perspective, folks, what the kind of perspective they bring to the table, how they progressed in their career. And ultimately, that's going to help you at least anticipate the kind of perspective they bring to the table, and therefore anticipate the kind of questions that they might ask. Now, it's not just about the questions that they're going to ask, but this will also help you identify what might be important to them, right? Given their position, where they've come from their career, their perspective and all that stuff, but also what they're doing right now. What would interest them? Like, why would they be present in this particular interview conversation? So when you research, you need to be able to research and actually see what information you can gather and figure these things out. Now, prior to the interview, your point of contact, whoever your point of contact is, maybe it's an internal corporate recruiter at the organization, maybe you're being represented by an agency. You need to have a thorough discussion with the agency in terms of what information they can provide to you regarding who's going to be interviewing you, right? Now, maybe it's a new client of theirs. In that case, they might not be able to share much information. However, if it is a well-established relationship, then you got to be able to have that discussion with your agency contact for more information regarding who's going to be interviewing you, what they're like, and stuff like that. So use and utilize your point of contact. Now, maybe you're not being represented by an agency. Still no excuse, folks. You got to ask your point of contact. Maybe it's the HR manager, the HR person. Get as much information as possible in terms of who you're going to be meeting with, who else is going to be there, and what you can explore, what at your end, what you can expect the conversation to be like. You got to do your due diligence at your end, right? Don't just sit there and let things kind of flow as they will. You got to ask questions and inquire about these things prior to your interview from your point of contact, right? So we got a comment here from Roya says, Dean, not always the interviewee would know the people who are going to interview him or her, right? Yeah, so that's a good point, Roya. So Roya, this is where just like I suggested just now, whoever your point of contact is, you got to find out who's gonna, from them, you got to find out who's gonna be present at the interview. Now, the initial phone call, yeah, you might not be able to figure out who's gonna be giving you that initial pre-screen phone call. You're probably not gonna know who's gonna be. I mean, most likely it's gonna be either the hiring manager, or it's gonna be the HR person or the corporate recruiter, or if it's an agency, it's gonna be the agency recruiter calling you to contact you. But beyond that point, beyond that initial contact, you need to be having a thorough discussion with your point of contact, whoever that is, to figure out, hey, who's gonna be at this next interview that's gonna be scheduled. What information would help me prepare for this? Who's going to be present? Is there going to be multiple people? Is there going to be multiple individuals? What are their titles? Hey, what are their names? Right? And at your end, you need to take these names and these titles and all that stuff, and you need to do your research on LinkedIn and see as much as you can find about these individuals prior to your conversation, right? So hope that helps, Roya. Great question. All right, now moving on to tip number 3, folks. Refresh yourself on your own resume. Now, this is another key mistake I have seen so many people make, and it's such a basic mistake. So many candidates make, at their interviews. And Pino, if you're still there, maybe you can confirm this with me. I think you're on the agency side of things as well, Pino. How many times have you heard hiring managers say, hey, this candidate does not appear familiar with their own resume, or they weren't able to confidently explain their resume? or any other agency recruiters watching this, let me know in the comments, because I want to make sure everyone knows I'm not just pulling this out of a hat or something like that. This is a common mistake I've seen so many candidates make at their job interviews, not being familiar with your own resume, folks. You got to review, refresh yourself on your resume, especially the most relevant aspects of your background, and also the those aspects whereby they're going to ask you about, or your most recent projects, especially those recent projects from the most recent. If you're a senior level, refresh yourself on the most recent projects, folks, within the past, I'd say 5 to 8 years at least. Right now, relevance is also key. Like the most relevant projects are probably the ones that they're going to ask you about. So if you have a relevant project on your resume that might be recent, maybe there's something from like within the past year, but maybe there's another relevant project from like 10 years ago. Guess what? You gotta refresh yourself on that project from 10 years ago, because of its relevance, the chances are the hiring team or the interview panel, they might ask you about it, right? So Pino says, yes, 100%. You're right. Yeah. So guys, folks, and Pino's, by the way, from a different industry as well, right? He recruits for HR professionals. I as a former recruiter, recruited on IT professionals, but it's the same thing. Like we see this all the time, right? Like working on the agency side, working in recruitment. Unfortunately, fantastic candidates, great candidates, stellar candidates who forget to refresh themselves on their own resume. And guess what, folks? The resume isn't everything. Your resume is not everything. I'm not saying it's everything, but it's definitely important, because guess what? The interview panel, the hiring team, that's the only document they have in front of you. In front of themselves. Your resume is the only document they have in front of themselves that represents you, and something that they can refer to ask you questions. So if you're not the expert on your own resume, that's going to be a problem, especially if they start probing about these various projects that you've been doing, especially in the most recent ones, right, within the past few years. So you got to be the expert on your resume, folks. Again, aim for the relevant stuff. You got to definitely refresh yourself on the most relevant stuff, the relevant projects, relevant achievements, but especially the most recent stuff listed on your resume as well, because you need to be able to expand on and elaborate on your most recent projects that are listed on your resume. So be the expert on your resume, right? Your resume isn't everything, but you got to be the expert on your resume. So remember this, it's extremely important, right? Now, other tip is, this brings me to my final tip, right? And this is tip number 4. And I got a couple of components here that I wrote down. Look, you got to show interest and enthusiasm, folks. Look, there's people out there giving advice like, oh yeah, don't show too much interest, don't show too much enthusiasm and all that stuff. Folks, it's baloney. I can tell you right now, it's baloney. As a recruiter, working in IT recruitment for like 8+ years, one of the pieces of advice I always give to the candidates that I represent is always show interest, and always show enthusiasm. Everything being equal between two candidates, let's say that we got 2 candidates, right? Both have the same skill set, same abilities. Everything being equal, the one with the most, showing the most interest and the most enthusiasm for the position, will be given preference by the hiring team, right? I guarantee that. So obviously there's going to be various components, right? Aside from being interested and enthusiastic, I mean, if you don't have the ability to help them out or be the right fit for the role, obviously your interest and enthusiasm is not going to really matter for much. But given the fact that you have demonstrated yourself to be a high-value candidate, as one of their top picks, as having the ability to help them with whatever project they've got going on, you need to additionally show that interest and enthusiasm for the position, folks. It counts for a lot. It definitely makes an impression on hiring managers. And this is based on feedback I've heard from hiring managers over so many years. And it's something you definitely want to show, right? So we got Pino here says some additional comments. And to add to that, do not have any spelling or grammar errors on your resume. A company will discount you if you don't take the time to write properly. 100% agree, Pino. Hey, look, folks, look, we can all complain about, oh yeah, grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes, does it matter, stuff like that. Folks, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean, you will get judged on your grammar, your spelling, and all that stuff. So you at your end, you need to do your due diligence and get that part handled. Like, make sure you do your grammar check. Maybe make sure you do your spelling check on your resume. Very important. So Pino says, also, I'd like to add, a resume does not need to be 3 pages. 1-page resume can be equally effective. Yeah. So Pino, I definitely see where you're coming from. Now, for IT, Pino, and this, again, folks, this might depend on the industry. For IT, I would say it's very difficult for a senior level person to really showcase their value for an IT position within 1 page, unless it's a junior or entry level position. But I know there are industries out there where, you can definitely communicate that within one page. But in regards to IT recruitment, because IT recruiters are heavily keyword driven, right? We're looking for skills, technologies, tools, industries, and stuff like that. You might not be able to effectively, showcase your value within one page. So again, this advice, I would say it depends on the industry. I would say in my case, Pino, recruiting in IT, especially if it's like a senior level person, I can't see how a one page resume can do them justice. But again, depends on the industry, folks, right? But appreciate you sharing that, Pino. But look, folks, the point here is, can you communicate your value, right? That should be the focus, not the number of pages. Can you communicate your value? Can you show how showcase your ability to solve problems or do certain tasks and all that stuff? That should be the focus, not the number of pages. Like, if you can communicate that within like a couple of pages, hey, good for you, right? If you need a few more pages, at least within IT, that's fine. In IT, it's kind of difficult to kind of demonstrate that within one page. So again, depends on the industry, folks. For those of you watching who are IT professionals, hey, look, you got to put the focus, like it's very keyword driven, right? IT recruiters are very keyword driven, so keep that in mind, all right? But great comment there, Pino. And then we got a comment here that says, ask them to have their phone numbers on their resumes. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you, folks. If you're only putting this is something that really frustrated me as a recruiter, actually. And I'm glad that whoever put that, I think it was Jessica. It's not displaying the name, unfortunately, but going by Pino's comment, I think it was Jessica that posted that. So shout out to Jessica. But yeah, this is one of my greatest frustrations as a recruiter, folks, is when people only put their email address. I send them an email because it's a great candidate, fantastic candidate. I want to speak to them. I send them an email, and for whatever reason, my email ended up in their spam folder or their junk folder, or they didn't get my email, or they forgot to update their email, and there's some kind of an outdated email listed on your resume. It happens, and guess what, folks? Those are lost opportunities. Everyone should be putting their phone number on their resume, right? Unless you have I don't know, like maybe you're in Secret Service or something, right? Maybe that's why you don't want to put your phone number. But if not, you got you got to put your phone number, folks, right? Because that's the quickest way for a recruiter, someone who's excited about your profile, excited about your what's written on your profile, what they see on in terms of the projects you've done. You need to reduce the amount of time to get from point A to point B, and the shortest distance between 2 points in my world as a recruiter is a phone call, folks, right? Pino, Jessica, let me know if you agree with that comment, right? The shortest distance between 2 points is a phone call, right? In the world of recruitment. So I want to be able to contact a fantastic candidate as soon as possible. So all of you need to be putting in your phone number on your resume. You got to be putting your phone number on your resume, folks. Do not shy away from phone conversations. Even if you're shy to get, a phone call or something like that, at some point you will have to speak on the phone. So you got to include your phone number, right? Because guess what? I'm not going to be chasing after the people that don't respond via email. I'm going to be moving on to the next phone call, folks. As a recruiter, I've got a whole pipeline of candidates I got to reach out to. And I'm sure it's the same case with Pino and Jessica as well, right? We're not going to be, bent up on one candidate we've been trying to reach out through email, because we got KPIs to meet. We got targets to meet and all that stuff. So I'll send an email to a great candidate. If there's no phone number, hey, unfortunately, I can't call them. But then I'm moving on to the next candidate, right? So you got to be able to make sure that the recruiter is able to reach you as soon as possible, right? Let's see here. Yeah, Jessica says, yes, that was her. LOL. I agree 100%. I text people. Yeah, definitely texting is also fantastic as well. Definitely highly recommend. If you're a recruiter watching this, you got to make use of texting candidates as well. It's a great way to get in touch with people. Right, so definitely make sure you do that. Now, in regards to, I'm just gonna quickly wrap up my fourth tip here. The other aspect, folks, is follow-up. Follow-up is extremely important, because look, a lot of you are thinking about the jobs, the interview as, hey, look, the interview is just the 1 hour that I have the conversation with them and that's it. The way I see it, folks, the interview starts from the moment that they look at your resume up until the moment they make that final decision. That is the actual interview cycle, in my opinion, right? The interview is not just that 1 hour you speak with them, or that half an hour you have that phone call with them. The interview is much larger than that. It is the interview from the moment they see your resume up until they make that final decision as to whether they want to move ahead with you or not. Everything in between is considered, I consider, as part of the interview cycle. So follow-up is what contributes to this as well. Like, you got to follow up after the interview, show interest, show enthusiasm. Again, add value, right? And you got to follow up in the sense of continuing that communication, right? Now, if you're applying directly to a company, in your follow-up, this is an opportunity for you to, again, keep adding value, keep showcasing why you're a great candidate for the role, keep showing interest and enthusiasm. If you're being represented by an agency, your point of contact is your agency recruiter, right? So you got to keep showing them interest as well, because guess what? They're going to be folks, they're going to be conveying that interest to the client, right? When I have represented candidates as a recruiter, on again, being in the agency side of the equation, when candidates that I have represented have gone in for an interview and they keep following up with me and showing interest, guess what? I'm going to pass that feedback on, pass that interest on to the client or to the hiring manager. Or if I'm interacting with someone on the sales team who's coordinating that relationship, I let them know, hey, look, so and so keeps they're such a great candidate. They keep following up with me. They're very interested in the opportunity, and they're ready to go in the seat right away. Like, what's the stall from the client side of things, right? And then the sales team, or maybe if I'm in direct contact with the client, I pass that on to them. I let them know, hey, look, so and so is really excited about the opportunity. They keep following up. They keep showing interest, and they're a great candidate. What's your decision on this person? Right. So follow up is more additional opportunity for you to showcase interest and show why you're a great candidate for the position, and keep that communication going. Right. So keep these things in mind, folks. Like so I shared 4 tips with you. Number 1, technical setup. Make sure your technical setup is all in place, and then you've tested everything in advance. Tip number 2 was research. You got to research the organization. And you got to research the interviewers as well, the interview panel, and who's going to be at the interview and all that stuff. Tip number 3 was refresh yourself on your own resume. Extremely, extremely important. You got to be the expert on your own resume. Tip number 4 was show interest, show enthusiasm. And you gotta conduct follow-up as well. Follow-up is extremely powerful in showing continued interest and showing that you have interest and enthusiasm in the position, in the opportunity, whoever your point of contact is, right? So those are the 4 tips today. So these are some tips that all of you need to take very, very seriously. These might seem like very simple tips, but I can't tell you how many people. And by the way, folks, do not think that this is just for junior or entry-level people. I have seen candidates at the senior level flunk their interviews, right? Fail their interviews simply by not understanding these basics. Focus on the basics, and you can handle the advanced stuff, right? You can further prep yourself and sharpen yourself on those other aspects that you need help with, right? So that being said, so Jessica says very much so. Same with texting. Texting is great. Yeah, 100% agree. Definitely agree with that. I love texting. Thank you. Notes will get you very far in the interview process. It separates you from the rest. Yeah, absolutely. Pino says follow up how? Email, phone call. Yeah. So good. Thanks for reminding me, Pino. Yeah. So folks, my suggestion is use every avenue available to follow up. That's what my suggestion would be. Now, if you're being represented by an agency, you do not want to bypass your agency and go direct to the client to do your follow up. Your follow up should be with your agency contact, right? The person at the agency. Otherwise, it's going to mess up the relationship. It's going to ruin things. The agency might even blacklist you, right? So if you're being represented by an agency, your point of contact is your agency recruiter, or your point of contact at the agency. And you can use phone to follow up with them. You can use email. If you're connected on LinkedIn, you can use LinkedIn as well. My suggestion is put some variety into it. Don't you can use all 3 of these things over the course of 1 week if needed, without coming across as pestering or pesky or anything like that. Now, if you're applying directly to the organization, same thing. If your point of contact is the corporate recruiter, do not make the mistake of thinking you can bypass the corporate recruiter and go directly to the hiring manager after there is an established relationship between you and the corporate recruiter. That will not reflect well on you. It might ruin your chances in that opportunity as well. If whoever your established point of contact is, that is who you need to be following up with. And yeah, you can use phone, you can use email. If you're connected on LinkedIn, you can use LinkedIn as well. So my suggestion is you gotta use whatever avenue is available to you, because certain people prefer certain channels, right? One person might not like the phone, the other person might not like email, the other person might not like LinkedIn, right? One person might say, hey, yeah, I prefer getting follow up on the phone. Other person might say, yeah, check up with me on through email. Other person might say, hey, just message me on LinkedIn. So you can actually establish like which they prefer actually on your last conversation, right? In your conversation with them, you can always ask, hey, which avenue would you prefer I follow up with you on? Like through the phone, through email, or through LinkedIn, or how would you like to do this? So use those avenues, folks, right? And then again, follow up is extremely important. So keep all that stuff in mind. So look, folks, I'm gonna I'll open things up to the Q&A right now. For those of you who are job seekers, any questions you have in relation to video interviews, I want you to put in the comments right now, and I'm going to spend a few minutes answering any of your questions, or even if anything outside of the video interview. Let me know anything job search related, any questions you have right now job search related. I want you to put in the comments and let me know. And before I get to the Q&A, for those of you IT professionals here in Canada or the US, you're struggling in your job search, you don't know how to handle these video interviews, the conversations, the negotiations, how to get attention from hiring teams. Your resume is not getting you attention. You're not able to get in contact with recruiters. You don't know how to handle your conversations with recruiters. I do provide one-on-one Zoom coaching, and I'm also going to be very soon collaborating with someone else on a group coaching program as well for IT professionals. So send me a direct message or let me know in the comments if you need help with this. If you want more information, I'm happy to set up a complimentary 30-minute Zoom discovery call with you to learn more about what your situation is and how I can help you through my coaching. All right, I'm happy to do that. Send me a direct message or let me know in the comments. I'll get to you shortly. And again, this is for IT professionals right now, IT professionals in Canada or the US. All right, so I'm going to go through the questions now and open up the Q&A. I'm going to take a quick sip of water. Well, it's lemon water. All right, so let's get to the questions. All right. So let's see here. Okay, so Roya says, can you put the link for the subscription again? Yeah, sure, Roya. Let me put the. So Roya is talking about my newsletter, my weekly newsletter. So that's the link. So I'm just going to keep that there for a couple of seconds. So it's basically www.deankulawira.com/newsletter. I'm not sure if you're asking about the newsletter or the PMI one, Roya. If you want the PMI one, let me know. I'll put that link on the display here as well. All right, so let's go to other questions. Any other questions? Yeah, so any questions, folks, any job search questions, put in the comments. I'm happy to do that. So Pino made a great comment here. So Pino says, lighting is not expensive. I purchased lights from Amazon for $60. It makes a big difference. Yeah, totally agree with you, Pino. Folks, good lighting for your video interviews is a great investment. Like the lighting thing I got one of those ring lights, but it's like a mini one. Like I can clip it onto the back of my desk. And this thing is, let me see if I can, yeah, it's like this thing here, right? Look at this. Pretty simple, right? Nothing complex. And that's my lighting. So I keep this for my lighting. And I got this for I think it was like $40-50 from Amazon. So it's such a great investment, right? Because people can see me and all that stuff. So definitely agree with that, Pino. Great advice there. So what else here? Let's see. We got Anuj says power backup is also important. Yeah, completely agree, folks. You gotta have the power backup in case your laptop or your smartphone runs out of battery during the video interview. Roya says thanks. Yeah, no worries, Roya. What else here? Yeah, so Pino made a great comment. So Pino says, yes, Jessica, I agree. I have seen people put their contact details on the bottom of their resume. Not good. Yeah, folks, your contact information should be right up front, right, where everyone can see it right away. Sometimes some of you are putting it in the footer of your resume, and that's great, but people might miss that. It might not capture attention. So your contact information should go right at the top where it's seen and people can see it. Jessica says, Pino, Jessa, 100%, or it's not there, and then they're unavailable at their email when it's time for a scheduled call to deliver their phone number. Yeah, exactly, folks. Don't stop this whole thing about not putting your phone number on your resume, right? Like if you're shy about it, and folks, get over it, folks, right? I mean, at some point you will have to have a phone conversation. As far as I know, I've never heard of anyone getting a job or getting interviewed through email. Like it's gonna happen eventually, either over the phone or through video. So get over that anxiety. Like do what you got to do to handle it. Do some push-ups, do some yoga, whatever you need to do. Put your phone number on your resume. I don't want you to lose out on opportunities just because you did not have your phone number there. They emailed you, and the email ended up in the junk folder or the spam folder. I don't want that to happen to you. So get over it. Put your phone number on your resume. All right. So what else here? We got Jessica says it matters. Attention to detail is so important. Yeah, absolutely, Jessica. Completely agree with you. We got Tarun here from India. Awesome. New Delhi's in the house. Shout out to Tarun. Thanks for tuning in. So Anuj says, prepare some scenarios who will show your potential and key role in the team. Yeah, definitely, Anuj. Agree with that. What else? What else? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, here we go. So we got a question from Yasir. So Yasir says, "Hey, any reason an organization's recruiter won't reply, and should we follow up again if we don't get a feedback?" Yes, Yasir. So if so, I'm not sure which part of the job search cycle you're in right now, or sorry, the interview cycle. So I'm not sure if you're talking about initial contact, or I'm not sure if you're talking about the recruiter not replying after you've interviewed there. So either case, Yasir, I would suggest you follow up right now. If they don't get back to you initially, or even during the interview cycle, it's possible there might be some kind of a hold up at their end, or it could simply be, of course, that they just don't see you as a right fit for the role, right? But don't assume that's the case, because I've had a lot of situations where there's simply something internal going on at the organization, and they can't publicly speak about whatever's going on. Maybe there's an internal shift in the organization, some kind of a restructuring, or simply that they're not interested, right? But either way, Yasir, keep following up, right? Keep following up, keep showing interest. Ultimately, they're either going to let you know, hey, we already found someone else, or we didn't feel you were a good fit for the role, or they might say, hey, look, our needs have changed. We got some things going on internally we can't talk about, but we want to keep in touch with you, and let's keep in touch. So at your end, Yasir, this is where follow up comes in, right? You got to keep following up. Folks, a lot of you are making assumptions right away and taking it personally when people don't get back to you right away. I mean, look, I understand there's a lot of negativity on LinkedIn, like, hey, recruiters aren't getting back to you, and the people are not doing this, people are not doing that, and I get that, right? I mean, obviously, as a recruiter, the most professional thing would be for the recruiter to let you know why they're not moving ahead with you, or why this happened, or why that happened. But sometimes there are certain situations where, in order to keep the organization out of trouble, or because of some legal reasons, sometimes, like, some organizations do not provide feedback, simply because they don't want the feedback to turn into someone getting upset or pissed off and then ending up in a lawsuit or something, right? Unfortunately, that does happen. So and the other aspect is, of course, maybe the recruiter is just simply caught up with some other things, right? Because priorities change from a recruiter's perspective. So my advice to you is, Yasir, keep following up. Don't take it personally. Keep following up. Keep showing interest, but keep looking for other opportunities. Do not put all your eggs in one basket, folks. As a candidate, as a job seeker, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Keep looking for other opportunities. Keep looking for what else is out there. But at the same time, don't give up on what you do have, folks. Keep following up. Keep showing interest. Be a consistent presence. And if it's a situation that's internal at the organization, once that's resolved, you want to make sure you're the first person that they think about, right? So I hope that helps you, Yasir. All the best in your job search. Pino says, companies get flooded with resumes. How can a candidate stand out from the crowd? Yeah, Pino, that's a great question. So look, folks, the reality is, like, you recruiters or organizations, especially right now, right, during this pandemic, right, because there's the marketplace has been flooded with available talent. How can you stand out aside from your resume? Because if you're only depending on your resume, you are competing against hundreds and hundreds of other resumes for the same positions that you're applying for. I think I heard, I think I was reading this average, that on average every job posting receives 250 resumes. Now, I can guarantee to you folks that no recruiter out there is going to go through each and every one of those 250 resumes, right? Now, you guys might not like to hear that, but that's the reality of the situation. Now, Pino, Jessica, if you're still there, you can confirm that for me. I mean, no chance in ever that the recruiter is going to go through each and every 250 applications, right? Now, how can you stand out? That's a good question that Pino asked. So this is where you got to use other means, folks, right? Staffing agencies are a great way for you to stand out. In fact, if you're partnered up with a staffing agency and they see you as a great fit for a position that they're recruiting on behalf of their client, they will help you bypass those 250 applications and that whole flooded inbox thing, and get you in front of the decision maker or the hiring manager. So that's one option, right? Now, the other option is you got to use phone calls, you got to use emails to get in direct touch with whoever posted the position, or whoever the point of contact is for that opportunity. Right, so this is where you got to do some legwork and some research. Use the phone, use email. That's another way of standing out and separating yourself from those other 250 applications. Because most people who submit their application for resumes online, I guarantee you, not all 250 of them are also sending follow-up emails, and I guarantee close to none of them are going to be actually using the phone to call in and introduce themselves, to separate themselves. And because look, everybody shies away from the cold call, right? Everybody shies away from the cold call, but the cold call is one of the most powerful methods that you can use to get in front of the recruiter, get in front. If it's a direct apply and it's a small company, they don't have a recruiter, you're dealing directly with the hiring manager, that's probably one of the best ways, right? But most of you watching this are not going to take that advice, because you're freaked out by the cold call, because this is not common it's not a common thing that's being taught, right? So that being said, just want to let you know, right, that's the reality of the situation. If you're able to develop that confidence to pick up the phone and call in, hey, you're going to be separating yourself from all of those applications, guaranteed. But if not, use email, use LinkedIn, identify the right people, get in touch with them. That's another great way for you to kind of separate yourself and stand out, right? Great question there, Pino. Ayaz says, why recruiters ask a common question as why you change jobs from one company to another? What they want to conclude. Yeah, great question, Ayaz. What the recruiter is trying to conclude is motivation, right? Especially if it's a staffing agency, if it's a recruitment agency, and they're presenting someone to their client, and their client is going to pay them a fee for, the client is going to pay them a fee for taking on their candidate. They want to make sure that the chances of this candidate staying at the organization are going to be, at least for the duration of the contract, if it's a contract position, or if it's a full-time position, at least for a couple of years, right? Now, there's no way to guarantee this, obviously, right? But one of the ways to increase the chances of this happening so that their client is happy is to find out motivation, right? And a great way of finding out motivation is asking the candidate what motivated them to change from one company to another in the past. And that gives the recruiter an understanding of what motivates the candidate. Maybe it's money, maybe it's learning new things, maybe it's technology, maybe it's working in a new industry. Maybe they hit a ceiling in career progression at this one company, and they felt the next company was a better progression for their career. So this is so that the recruiter understands your motivations and what drives you as a candidate, which helps them decide, hey, should I go ahead and present this candidate for this position, or are they motivated by something that's going to make them, join here, use it as a stepping stone, and then kind of move on to something else afterwards. So again, there's no guarantees here, obviously, from the recruiter's viewpoint, but it helps them evaluate the chances of whether or not bringing this candidate on, again, whether this is a staffing agency recruiter or a corporate recruiter, whether it makes sense from an investment standpoint to invest in this candidate, and whether the organization or the client is going to get their ROI, their return on investment, by bringing this candidate on. Now, again, the best, one of the ways that recruiters use to kind of figure this out is, of course, asking about your motivations in certain decisions you made previously in your career as reflected on your resume. So hope that helps, Ayaz. Great question there. Pino says, Dean, can you talk about the importance of a professional LinkedIn profile pic? Yeah, absolutely. So folks, it's very important for you to have a professional LinkedIn profile pic, right? Now, I've seen some, some of you folks are putting pictures of monkeys and horses and your pets and your kids. I mean, that's fine. That's cool and everything. But keep in mind, this is LinkedIn. Like your profile is going to get looked at by recruiters or hiring managers and people looking for talent, right? Now, if it's a startup, right? Maybe you only want to work for startups. Yeah, those funky startups. They got the ping pong tables. Everyone wears jeans and t-shirts and everyone does headstands in the morning to kind of warm up everyone. I don't know, stuff like that. Then maybe the picture of the horse or the monkey and stuff like that. Hey, maybe that might work for you. But for the most part, you do want to have a professional picture, folks. You want to have a professional picture that shows your face, shows who you are, and again, this is for the most part. I mean, it's kind of questionable right now because LinkedIn is the lines are starting to kind of blur on LinkedIn, but for the most part, this is a professional networking platform, right? Now, you don't have to be in a full suit or anything like that. Again, this could depend on what your goals are, what kind of companies you're targeting. It's completely fine if you're wearing a t-shirt and stuff like that, but it should be a professional picture. Like it should be a picture of your face and it should be of you yourself, right? And a good quality picture. And consider what your target is, what your aim is, right? Are you looking for something in the corporate world, something in a more formal environment? Hey, then maybe taking a picture of yourself in a suit might make sense. If you're aiming for the startups, right? The startups, the Liberty Village side of things, then you might want to consider something maybe more casual, right? Because if you're dressed up in a tux and they see you there, and they see your profile, they might assume right away you're not a cultural fit, right? So you want to eliminate that as well. So first and foremost, what's your target, folks? What are you targeting? What is your target employer? And then based on that, definitely have a professional LinkedIn picture of yourself, right? So that's my viewpoint, by the way. That's my viewpoint. Folks, feel free to share your own viewpoints in the comments as well. We got Mark Cooper from Connecticut, I guess. Hey, shout out to Mark. Thanks for tuning in, Mark. Pino says recruiters don't respond because we get flooded with resumes. We cannot contact everyone. Yeah, for sure. Folks, look, it's unrealistic for anyone to expect every recruiter to respond to each and every application that they get, right? Recruiters, just like any other profession, recruiters do have to prioritize getting back to people, getting back to applications that they receive and stuff like that. No recruiter is going to reach out to every single application that they get, right? I mean, it's just not realistic. Like, the focus is on, okay, of these 250 applications, I'm going to conduct a Boolean search or, a keyword search. I'm going to narrow that down to maybe, 20 to 30 resumes. And of those 20 to 30 resumes, I'm going to call 7, 8 people or something like that. And of those 7, 8 people, I'm going to present 4 or 5 candidates for the position. That's how the system works, right? Overall, right? There might be some nuances and some differences here and there depending on the position, but that's how it works, right? So you can't expect, if you apply for a role, don't expect to get feedback on just because you provided an application or provided your resume. Now, later on in the cycle, if you have actively interviewed, then of course the professional thing for the recruiter to do is provide you with feedback, right? Whether there's no feedback or the feedback is good or bad. Now, whether or not you as a candidate can take and handle negative feedback, that is your decision, folks. Because the reason why a lot of recruiters don't give feedback is they have an experience with candidates who were not able to take feedback and got upset with the recruiter, started yelling at them and started being unprofessional. And that's what's ultimately led to a lot of recruiters being hesitant in providing negative feedback. Because look, a lot of people, their egos get in the way and they can't handle feedback. So you at your end as a candidate, you need to decide on whether you are open to receiving feedback as well. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm not getting feedback. But the question is, folks, can you handle the feedback? So that's something only you know the answer to. So if your ego is the size of Jupiter, you can't accept feedback and you start getting defensive and stuff like that, then don't ask for feedback and don't get upset when you don't get feedback, right? But if you do want the feedback, let the recruiter know up front. Have a transparent conversation with your recruiter. Say, hey, Dean, you know what? I appreciate you presenting me for the role. I just wanted to kind of set the stage for things moving forward. I am very interested in receiving feedback from you, whether that feedback is negative or positive. I understand that, some people, they flip out and they can't handle constructive criticism, but I want to let you know that I'm going to be very professional about it, Dean. I'm very, very interested in hearing constructive criticism so that I can improve things at my end and I can do well in my job search. So it will be a huge help to me, Dean, if you can provide me with that constructive feedback if you do receive any feedback from your client. Set the stage right up front, folks. Set the stage right up front, right? And again, be willing to handle that constructive criticism. Don't get all defensive and upset when people give feedback and the feedback it might be constructive criticism, right? You got to be able to handle the constructive criticism as well. So great point there, Pino. So Yasir says, thanks. Is it okay to apply to the same organization more than 3 times? Yeah, sure. I don't see an issue with that, Yasir. Vijay says, nice information. Hey, no worries, Vijay. We got Anjali says, hi, Dean. What's your comment on sending both resume and cover letter with every follow-up message? Yeah, sure, you can do that, Anjali. I'm not sure what that accomplishes, though, right? If they already have your resume and your cover letter, what point is there in you just keep sending that? That's kind of like spam then, right? But you should still follow up, though. But if you are sending your resume and your cover letter, there should be some context to it. Ayaz says, appreciate it. Thanks for detailed explanation. Hey, no worries, Ayaz. So look, folks, that is it for today. I hope everyone got a lot of great information out of this. Appreciate everyone that commented and shared their thoughts and their questions in the comments. I go live every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone right here. Not only on, right here, meaning on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and what's the other one? Instagram as well. So shout out to everyone on Instagram as well. So hope everybody got some great information out of this. And again, if you are an IT professional in Canada or the US, you're struggling in your job search, do not keep struggling, right? Do not be afraid to get help. Your job search skill set and your actual professional skill set, those are 2 separate things. Do not start, getting upset at yourself that you can't handle your job search. It's not your fault if you can't handle your job search. The skill set required to conduct a successful job search is completely separate from the skill set required for your role, for your position. Your expertise is in IT, folks, if you're an IT professional. Conducting a successful job search is a completely different ballgame, completely different story, completely different skill set. So look, if you want to set up a one-on-one 30-minute complimentary discovery call with me, if you're an IT professional, here in Canada or the US, I'm happy to provide you with more information on how I can help you through my coaching services as well. All right. So everyone have a fantastic day. Send me a direct message. You want to get in touch with me. Have a fantastic day and take this information and apply it, folks. You got to apply the information. Don't just be like, one of those like armchair professors. You just listen to this stuff and you're amused by it and then you don't do anything with it. Apply this. Very important for your video interviews. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Everyone have a fantastic week ahead. Keep pushing through in your job search. Keep taking action and, adjust those things that are not working. Keep doing the things that are working and keep pushing through, folks. All right. Stay positive. Keep taking action. Everyone have a fantastic week ahead. Take care.